Welcome to the Communities of Practice Sunday check-in session, a half hour of Dharma, reflection, and community connections. My name is Amy and I'm from Canada. If you are a new member, please accept our wholeheartedly welcome. If you have any questions about our practices and topics, we are all here to help. And if you are a regular, welcome back. It is customary in Australia to begin any meetings by acknowledging the traditional owners of our land. So in the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we walk, study, and reside. The Woody people of the Dharawal Nation, and pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging. I also pay my respect to the traditional custodians of the various lands on which you all are. The check-in sessions have been developed by our communities of practice and the entire community. These sessions aim to develop a reflective practice in response to changes. Guided by humanistic Buddhism, we would like to cultivate our practices and build memorable friendships. For the next few months, we will be presenting the youth series. It will be wonderful to hear more dialogues of the youth voices at each session, as well as the wider voices of the community. To kick off the youth series, we are delighted to invite Jade Hutchinson to present his topic on certainty and uncertainty, contrasting the security structure and direction which certainty provides with the realities of the unpredictability and ambiguity of today's world. Jade is a Kotutel PhD candidate at Macquarie University, Australia, and Groningen University, the Netherlands. He is a member of the Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering's Emerging Leaders Network and guest in the Digital Future Forum and Industry Mentoring Networks in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Catalyst Program. Moreover, Jade is a Chief Research Scientist in Defense Applications at IPAC-DX in Australia. Please join me and welcome Mr. Jade Hutchinson. I'll pass the mic to him. Thank you.
Well, yeah, here we are at the start of the Nantian Youth Series. I feel very honored and privileged to be the first presenter at the start of this series. And I know from seeing the lineup, there are many other very talented and inspiring youth presenters who will follow me. Today, I'll be talking about certainty and uncertainty. I understand that these terms can seem very abstract and yet personally quite concrete. We all feel certainty and uncertainty in different ways. It can be salient in the way that we see others or certain situations, and yet it almost feels oblique and somewhat diffuse. It's somewhat difficult to get our hands around a sense of uncertainty or not. Today, I think it's important for us to at least acknowledge the place where these concepts and these feelings seem to reside or situate or stir our lives and the lives of others. Something that I want us all to walk away with is an appreciation for not just where these concepts are in our lives, but how they come to change or condition us and the ways that we can live alongside and live with them for the better. I will be focusing very much on how certainty and uncertainty comes to shape the lives of youths, particularly in today's fast-paced world. It poses all kinds of unique challenges for younger generations as well as all other generations for which the youth live alongside. As we know, certainty offers a kind of stability. It helps us define who we are, what we might want from life, and how to get there. Everything from stable career prospects to family relations to how we believe we can appear in the lives of others. In our modern context, however, sometimes certainty and uncertainty can be delivered in somewhat unhealthy doses. For instance, certainty is not always a safe thing to have in our lives. If someone knows that something is going to happen in the future, and if you know this far in advance, sometimes certainty can be a little overbearing. In the same way, uncertainty comes with all kinds of ambiguity, anxiety, and sometimes fear. And however, if we tend to lean into these concepts, if we hope to better understand them, and if we can channel them appropriately, as I'll argue here this morning, I think that these can be really powerful forces for fostering innovation, adaptability, and critical thinking. Just to overview some of the levels in which these concepts enter into our lives, there's a very obvious place for these concepts, both in our lives today and in the lives of all of our ancestors who relied on predictable patterns in their engagement with the environment, whether this was seasonal changes or changes in their food sources or very dynamic day-to-day changes in social alliances. And this was to ensure their safety, the continuation of their lineage, and it has continued to play a very important evolutionary role for us. The ability to solve novel problems or to innovate responses in crises has allowed us to thrive. However, outside of the context of mere survival, young people today often grapple with this tension of being certain all the time. And uncertainty has been thought of as being the enemy of life itself. However, the duality between these two, as I said, is really something that we cannot move away from. It has been saturated in the long evolutionary trajectory of our species and continues and will continue to be with us as we find out who we are. We do know from having lived through that particularly prickly period that we call adolescence, which can be a critical time for personal and social identity formation, knowing who we are and what we're doing here. A young person who often grows in a close-knit community may feel more secure in their identity due to a kind of shared values or expectations. However, uncertainty continues to creep in as they encounter new norms and new people and continue to explore new aspects of their identity. Some scholars refer to this as relative autonomy, the period in time where young people are wanting to find themselves outside of their family unit or their immediate community, and often doing it in direct reflection of their peers. Now, there is almost no better place nowadays for young people to try to cement their identity than in direct relationship to a lot of the peers that they're in contact with on social media. So social media, as we know, is a double-edged sword when it comes to developing one's identity. And today, it also forms a double-edged sword when forming a relationship with certainty and uncertainty. On one hand, platforms create the illusion of certainty. You can have all kinds of curated images, social impressions, external validation, and many young people feel that they feel temporarily certain with who they are and their self-worth when they're on these platforms. On the other hand, this type of online presence is fleeting. It's superficial, and it doesn't seem to sustain a meaningful sense of social connection over time. So when real life problems arise, the idea that you're missing out on something doesn't really apply anymore. And in fact, you really do need a kind of uncertainty that the platforms seem to fail to deliver. And youth in this way tend to compare themselves with others who are also projecting themselves on the platforms as being certain, successful, and without need of consulting uncertainty at all. And this can be a distorting image for what, place these concepts really hold in our lives. Social media also increases the uncertainty through a constant stream of conflicting information, often projecting global issues, aspects related to body image, and untangible or unattainable images of success. This bombardment of information can overwhelm someone with uncertainty. Why don't I look like that? Why don't I seem to have these things in my life? And this can often contribute to kinds of mental health challenges that I think we're all becoming acutely aware of. And this really brings me to the last slide and closing part of this presentation, where I want to push uncertainty and uncertainty up against what I believe to be one of the best antidotes for this kind of confusion here, which is humanistic Buddhism. These concepts are not opposites, but they're complementary forces which shape us, our identity, our worldview, and increasingly our young people. As we know, certainty provides a kind of grounding, but without flexibility, it can lead to stagnation. And uncertainty can create fear, but it can also be a sense of growth, creativity, and adaptability. I believe that a lot of the teachings that I've received through being a humble member and participant in this wonderful community here at Nantian, and some of the powerful insights that have come to me, and I've done my best to translate into my teaching when speaking to students, is this embrace of the impermanence of life. Life is inherently unpredictable, and it does foster a kind of inner peace and emotional resilience to reconcile with this, and clinging to fleeting certainties, whether that be through social media or trying to fit in with one's friends, can sometimes lead us astray. And instead, promoting a kind of wholesale, distant compassion can really change our relationship to these concepts. Obviously, mindfulness and living in the presence will help young people detach from these external sources of validation, especially for those who are feeling somewhat alienated or feeling the pressures to perform in always a certain manner. And this, of course, is not reducible to the young. I think we're all sort of beginning to feel this overbearing sense that you need to always represent yourself as certain and all-knowing and always on the same trajectory, never changing, all of these things. But I am very suspicious of this. I think we ought to remain flexible and trying to avoid sort of dogmatic notions of being always certain, always confident, always acting like someone else. This can really prevent us from exploring this really social and ideological landscapes that, for me, may provide a much richer source of meaning and purpose. And I think humanistic Buddhism really provides this pathway forward for hoping to cope with some of the existential uncertainty that we all face, particularly surrounding the future, whether it be climate change or geopolitics. Focusing on mindful action rather than simply reacting to our collective well-being, let alone the sense of health and well-being that the young face. So in saying all this, through the principles of humanistic Buddhism, a balanced, mindful, compassionate approach, navigating the uncertainties of modern life with resilience and grace, I have to say, is about the best thing I can say to certainty and uncertainty. And I hope that a few comments here this morning helps you on your journey and your relationship with these concepts.
Thank you, Jade, for sharing your presentation on certainty and uncertainty. Now we are invited to contemplate the following questions. How can we effectively balance the need for certainty with the realities of an increasingly uncertain world? The second question, in what ways can uncertainty foster personal growth, creativity, and resilience? Now we will be placed in groups of 3 to 4 to share and discuss. In the discussion, we recommend you spend some time getting to know each other and then discussing our questions. There will be some Zoom notifications to guide you, but feel free to let the flow of your discussions guide you. Our sessions are guided by Metta, which is unconditional love and kindness for all sentient beings. Let's use these breakout sessions to express and receive loving kindness to and from one another. And take time to pause, share, and listen. We will also ask you to share some of your findings with the larger groups at the end of the breakout discussion. So now let's go to the breakout rooms for rich and nourishing discussions. See you all back in 15 minutes. We really hope that the check-in session was helpful to you, and we hope you experienced the unconditional love and compassion of this community. But for anyone who might be experiencing a greater need than what today could meet, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us, and you can also reach out to the professional organizations on the screen. Next week, we welcome Alex Troth-Goic to share his topic on the paradox of abundance, balancing short-term pleasure with lasting fulfillment. Be sure to join in on this thought-provoking topic. An announcement that the next Humanistic Buddhism Special Interest Group meeting takes place via Zoom on October 15th at 2 p.m. You're all welcome to join this meeting. As we check out today, let's recite the dedication of merit together to send love and compassion to whoever is in need. I would like to invite Marble Wei to help us recite this dedication of merit.
Thank you, Amy. May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land, and precepts inspire equality and patience. May our gratitude and humility give rise to great vows. May the merits of today's session be dedicated to everyone on the Zoom screen, as well as to everyone who has supported us, so that we can be on this community journey together. Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Marble Wei. Thank you, Jade, for your time and presentation with us today. Thank you, Lei Chin, for being our IT master behind the scenes. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Now we will have our usual plenary session, so please stay around if you have time. Otherwise, see you all next Sunday at 11 a.m.